Okay, so we are going to talk about demographic dividend and its implications in India. Uh, what I'm going to cover in this particular session for another 10 to 12 minutes is to talk about something on the basic concept of what is demographic transition and what is demographic dividend. So I think we should also able to understand what do we actually mean by demographic dividend. And if so, then what is the situation in India as of now? And what is going to happen in near future in terms of demographic dividend in our country? And we will also discuss about opportunities and challenges surrounded with, as you know, for everything, we have so many challenges. So how do we reap the benefit of demographic dividend? What are the way forward? And lastly, very briefly, I will touch upon what UNFPA is doing on this particular front. To start with some basic concept, firstly, let's talk about demographic transition, which is different than demographic dividend. Demographic transition is a transition of death rate and birth rate over a period of time. And as you can see from this chart here, there are different stages of demographic transition, and this is a classical theory, which is called classical theory of demographic transition, and it has been experienced by many countries, almost all countries of the world, over a longer period of time. So what is essentially it tells about is that in the initial stages, we do have high birth rate and high death rate. But slowly after, when the disease control and everything happens, so death rate starts declining very fast. But in the second stage, when the death rate is declining fast, but the birth rate does not match with that, and birth rate remains a bit high, and which we have also seen in our country. So there is a difference between birth rate and death rate, and that is the stage where we have a lot of population growth. And if you remember, in 60s, 70s, 80s, we used to talk about population explosion, and that was the reason there was a difference between birth and death rate. And slowly, third stage, the the birth rate also starts coming down, and eventually both are at a lower level, low fertility and low death rates, or high in life expectancy, and so on. And if you just see what has happened in India, similar to that pattern over the year, if we just try to see from 1901 till another 20, 25 years till 2035, so we had also seen the same pattern. So, and now today in 2021, we are actually at the end of stage 3, where we have got uh, the death rate is already low, birth rate is also coming down. As you all know, India has achieved the replacement level of fertility. So with this thing, when these changes happens in the fertility and mortality conditions of the population, it actually produces, there are inherent age structure changes. And age structure, if we just take broad age groups like young children, less than 15, 0 to 14 years, or 15 to 59 years, these are the working age population. And then we have 60 plus, which is an aged population or elderly population. So over a period of time, what has happened is that because of the rapid decline in fertility, so slowly the number of children in the population, 0 to 14, starts falling down. And when those who were already born about 2 decades ago, they enter into workforce. And that's why, the working age population increases. But this working age population increases up to certain level, but after that, they also tend to be aged person or elderly person. So as a consequence, what happens is, if we see the dependency ratio, so dependency ratio is what? Is those who are either children or elderly for every 100 working age population. So if you see the curve here, with decline in fertility, so this dependency ratios goes down. So you have less dependent but more working age population. That is an advantage situation, which is demographic dividend. And as a result, you would have also seen many places that how the age structure or age pyramid changes. Like even if you see 2011, we had a large base of the population here. And if in 2036, based on the projections, this bulge will go into prime working ages. And after about 2 or 3 decades, those working ages and these things will move towards elderly. So we will have more dependent elderly than the working age population. So it says that demographic dividend will be there only for a limited period of time. So with this background, let's try to understand is what is demographic dividend. As we have already seen that with the rapid fertility decline, the share of young population falls and that of the population of working age rises, which gives a situation which is demographic dividend. But this period of demographic dividend is going to be available only for a limited decades or limited period of time. And this is the time where the dividend, we can try to derive the dividend, and it can be beneficial for the country as a whole if the labor force participation of those who are in working ages improves, their productivity improves, and if they are able to produce more as compared to the dependents, so their productivity, their contribution to GDPs and all will actually help faster economic growth. So that's what we say is the favorable condition which can lead to economic growth. But please mind it, it is also said that this demographic dividend is a potential dividend. It does not come automatically. Why it does not come automatically? Because if we have more working age population, unless they are employed, unless they are gainfully contributing to the economy, then only we will be able to derive the dividend or benefit. And if they are unemployed, they are not working, so we will be losing the dividend. So that is the basic concept behind dividend. Now, just a little bit to give you a flavor that how do we estimate when this window of opportunity in our country is going to open and how long it will be open and when it is going to close. So what we do some demographic analysis, and then we find that if we take 15 to 59 age group as a working age population, we can also consider 20 to 64 or 20 to 59, whatever. So a little bit percentage varies, but I'm just giving you an example of 15 to 59 age group if we consider that as a working age population. So what happens is if the dependency rate, there is a cutoff point here, which is called at 67%. So if our dependency ratio, when it comes down below 67%, that's the time when we say, okay, now we have a lot of dividend accruing for us, and then we will be having some period of time when the dependency ratio will remain low, and after some time it will start increasing. So you will see further this concept, how do we estimate that in a minute from now. And the situation in India is that we have already started accruing the demographic dividend in our country. But most important part is that, as you know, India is a diverse country. So our demographic transition and the demographic transition, which we have seen, changes in birth rate and death rates, it varies from region to region, from state to state. And it gives a very different perspective for country. Is that some of the states had, earlier low levels of fertility and mortality, while other states lagged behind, and now they are slowly catching up. So as a consequence of these regional variations, what is going to happen is that our timing of dividend for each region or state is going to vary. So I'll show you how it will look like for India in coming few decades. Here I was talking about This is the constant line where we say is the dependency ratio if it is around 67%. And if you see that dotted line, this is for India as a whole. So even our dependency ratio started falling by 2011, and then we expect that it is going to further decline. And today we are at the kind of a lowest dependency ratio, which will continue till 2041. So another 2 decades we have to reap the benefit of these uh, low dependency ratio. It means higher working age population, and after that it will start slowly increasing because people will age, they will go to elderly, and the dependency ratio will increase. But if you see some of the regional patterns, the states like Kerala and Tamil Nadu, if you see by today, 2021, their dependency ratio, which was lower and now started rising, because they are the states where aging is catching up and dependency is increasing. While on the other hand, Bihar and UP, if you see, their period of window of opportunity will start later, will continue till longer time. So that we have these states will have a dependency ratio because of the low fertility they will gain in future, quite a later date from now. So that's kind of regional imbalances in terms of demographic dividend, which we see not as a country, but also variations by states and regions. And as I had shown only for Kerala and two types of diverse states, we have also estimated, what are the different stages of opening up of the, window of opportunity, where it is fully open, and when it will start waning up. So those things by state has also been estimated, but it's clearly indicated that few states which are ahead of reaping the benefits of demographic dividend as compared to the other states where it will come after about few decades. With this background, what are the opportunities and challenges which we see in our country on demographic dividend? As you have seen that there are state-specific geographical variations in demographic transition. So we in India will not be achieved as high as dividend as China has experienced, because China's fertility was uniformly declined very fast, and after that, their working age population increased very fast all across the country. But here we have seen some places it will be, our working age population will already start declining, while other states it will come in future. But this also gives a chance that such a moderate dividend lasting for a longer period of time, because certain states will open up later. So this allows the economy to accommodate the rising working age population into the labor force. And since the phases are different by geographic reason, this advantage can be obtained only through large interstate or inter-regional migration, and which is happening even today. If you see from eastern part of our country, people, particularly young people, are migrating out and they are going to other states which are developed states, and also that there are a deficit of workforce. So they go and match there because they also earn there. The state also needs workforce. So that kind of interstate migration is happening. And because of this demographic imbalances, it is going to happen in future as well. What we need to do is that to see that at the place of destination of these migrants, there should be some migrant friendly programs, policies, so that actually we will be able to reap the full benefit of demographic dividend without any fear, and people will be there contributing to the state economies. Now, if this is the situation, and now we have to reap the benefit of a demographic dividend, what we need to do today, and what the programs and policies in our country needs to do. Obviously, we need to invest in education, particularly of young people. We also need to pay attention towards the workforce participation rate, increasing productivity and all those things. We should also invest in health and there has to be some governance issue to reap the benefit. Let me give you some examples. We say that what is needed, and this is also based on the experiences from some of the Asian giants, which in last few decades actually they experienced this kind of demographic dividend, and they started reaping good benefit out of it. So we should learn from there. Even in education sector, if you see countries like Singapore, Taiwan, South Korea, they adopted policies and programs to empower young population. And let's say take example of South Korea, they shifted, what is called compulsory primary education to skill-oriented education, so that young people they are more equipped with the skills and they can contribute to the economy. Similarly, we saw no gender gaps in many countries. So based on all those experiences, what we in our country need to focus on again is very obvious: skill oriented quality education system. So it is not just primary or secondary education complete will help us reaping the benefit, but what we need is a good quality skill oriented workforce or the young persons. So, and we also need to invest heavily on the childhood and even nutrition of the adolescents and young people, so that they can be more productive in coming years, or to reap the benefit of demographic dividend. And for that, we need to scale up our investment in human capital, which is most important. And also what we have seen as of now, so there are gender gaps even in literacy levels, as well as on a higher level, women going into STEM and other technical degree. So there is a disparity between male and female. So unless we bridge those gaps, we will not be able to reap the benefit of demographic dividend in coming decades. So this is whole, and we need to work on education sector. If we look into on the workforce participation rate, the worrying factor for India is that our female workforce participation is quite low, and it is not only low, but over the period which we have seen is that it is going down. And what, on the other hand, we learn from country like South Korea, where at least 50% of the females, they are working, they are in workforce. And that has been backed up by the government, because government did a lot of measures. They adopted measures like they had a legally compulsory gender budgeting for each department. They analyzed gender disaggregated data for planning, and then they had their plans and policies. They raised the child care benefits so that women can go out to work and contribute to the economy. They also provided a lot of tax incentives so that women, if they are not able to do full-time work, so they can take up part-time work. And if you're working as a part-time, so your tax liabilities are much lower as compared to full-time. So these are the policies which they adopted to encourage female labor force participation. And what we need to do in India is to really think that how do we boost female labor force participation. And one of the study, it predicts that if all women engaged in domestic duties currently and who are willing to work, if they are given a job, the female labor force participation would increase by about 20 percentage points in India. So these are the simulation and estimation exercises. And I think we need to heavily work on those to increase the labor productivity, as well as encouraging women to come to the labor force. And that's what it is important. What is the condition of the other half of the demographic dividend, which is comprising of the women? So that we have to pay attention to that. Needless to say that if we really want our youth to contribute in future, there has to be a robust health system, universal health system, reproductive health for young people particularly. What we have seen is that there is a requirement of increasing the budget on health. We have seen our contribution on health is just 1% of GDP, while other Asian countries it is around 4 to 5%. So huge difference. So a lot of budget is required for the health system. And also invest on the family planning programs, because It will help particularly the young couples, women, to have their own, the number of children of their choice, and also a space between them, so that they are able to contribute to the economy. And similarly, what we need is to also to focus on marginalized section of the society. So it's not that those who are only living in urban areas, but it's equally important that people in rural areas, remote areas, tribal areas, how do we actually harness their work so that they can contribute to the economy, and they enjoy good health. On the governance aspect, as I had discussed, that there is there will be large interstate migration. And on the migration, we have also learned from South Asian countries that they have different policies and programs to regulate those kind of, either regulate and also to facilitate migration processes. So based on those experiences, if we look for India, what we need is a pan-India migration strategy for migrants and their families, so that we will be able to harness the demographic dividend at its full potential. And for that, I think, since there are different states, so what we suggest is that there should be a new federal approach to the governance, where there has to be a governance system, is a kind of a supra-state body. So there they can coordinate which are the out-migrating states, which are in-migrating, which kind of skills are required for the migrants. So balancing those things, and talking about skilling, talking about the female work participation, and overseeing those kind of arrangements at the governance level is needed to reap the benefit of demographic dividend. So these are the way forwards. And lastly, I'll just take about a minute or so. What we actually doing in this particular area is that till now the analysis which you have seen, it is purely a demographic analysis, but we also need to bring into the national transfers account, where we have to analyze very deeply about who produces, who consumes. So here, how many producers are there, and how many consumers which are dependent. So those analysis at the national level and state level, which we are trying to do with Niti Aayog, so that it will actually help shape our policies and programs even at the subnational level. We are also working in few states to try to develop context-specific strategies of that particular state to reap the demographic dividend. For example, if one state they are out migrating, so we try to see which kind of people go, where they do go, what government can help to inculcate skills, so that wherever they go, they are able to contribute in that economy. So those kind of work which we are trying to do. And lastly, we are trying to work with premier government training institutions or institutes, so that we try to inject that the population dynamics is also very important into their regular courses, training programs, like the way I did analysis and I'm putting before you. So even the state planners, the bureaucracy, they should understand the demographic or population dynamics and how they can incorporate into their state-specific plans, so that there will be better development opportunities. And we know the crux today is to invest in youth. And unless we invest, we'll not be able to get the benefit or the dividend. And if we get it, so the twin objective that we will be reaping the benefit of demographic dividend, as well as we will be achieving many of the sustainable development goals in India. So this is very, very important. So investing in youth is the crux today to reap the benefit, as well as for our SDGs. So with this, I stop here, and I will be happy to take up questions and anything which you would like. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please, ma'am. Go ahead.
This is Vasanthi Rajendran from Rajiv Gandhi National Institute of Youth Development, sir. Indeed, your presentation was very informative and very useful for us. I just want to know, you were mentioning about the spatial variation, across the states. Why? And in China, there was no such variation in the region. What could be the cause for this spatial variation, and how did, whether any effort has been made by UNFPA to guide Government of India, to how to deal with this spatial variation in demographic dividend? That is one question, sir. And the second question is, I would like to know, because you were talking about, the way forward and how you are linking up with institutes actually to, bring out this fact of, what should be the state's strategy, to deal with this demographic dividends in that specific state. So I feel, RGNIYD is the institute that should, be part of this kind of intervention to ensure that the demographic dividend is actually availed of or used before we run out of time. Thank you. These are my two questions.
Okay, thank you, Professor Vasanti. Just to answer your first question about geographical variations and what we are doing or government is doing. Actually, this is a normal phenomena of people's behavior on controlling their fertility and the number of children they want to have because of various reasons. Either they don't have access to services, or they want more children culturally, and all those things. And you see that development plays a major role. If you see South like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, and other places where the TFR was quite low long back, while we also see in other states like Bihar and UP, still TFR is very high today. So there is almost a difference of at least 1 and 1.5 children between these two states. So fertility is high because of various reasons, and the Government of India, UNFPA, we are trying that we should have informed choices to the women so that they can exercise their rights and choices to as many as number of children, and they should not have an unmet need for family planning so that they end up in unwanted pregnancies. So because of those factors, the regional variations are there. In fact, if you look at China, they decided one-child family, and it was across the nation. So it is kind of uniformly went across different regions and provinces, and they by law they try to control the fertility, and that was the rapid decline in fertility. And after that rapid decline, so there was a sudden spurt of working age population. So that's kind of this is again a population dynamics issue. On coming to your institute for having these training programs, and also we would be very happy, and I think UNFPA has a very close collaboration with your institute in the past on many other aspects like life skills development, and surely we will be happy to work further and try to see that how these population dynamics should be a part of your program and your training programs and curriculum and whatever. Look forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And just one more additional information is, that there are a lot of lessons, as you said, to learn from, Southeast Asian countries, which have taken a lot of steps to ensure that the demographic dividends is reaped in their countries. It has had a very, positive role, a major role in their development, actually. So, I think we need to learn a lot from them. Learning, and we are actually, as I said, we are losing out on time. So I think we should, I think that should be the focus of this strategy, also that we, Rajiv Gandhi Institute as well as UNFPA focus on, to ensure that we reap the benefit of this demographic dividend. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
Sir, very good afternoon. Sir, I'm sorry to say, but I would say over here that we Indians are having the tendency to become very happy when we find something which is valuable for us. Your presentation was as an eye-opener for all of us, because we are having a huge number of youth, but in reality, if we go, we find that how many are really being addressed. So this time, as you have focused on this important point, I rarely found that people are looking after this important aspect as well. So thank you very much for your information. Sir, I had a very brief interaction with the migrants while I was doing a small research over there. I found that these people are all together working, irrespective of their sex. Both the male and females are continuously working and earning to sustain their life. But what I have found at the end is that there is a huge gap in between these poor people, those who are contributing a lot in the economy, and the policymakers. So there I found my limitations, that what I should suggest. I can only suggest that the policymakers should look after this. But who is going to address it, and how we can really approach to connect them with the policymakers? So this is my concern. Another thing is that, sir, first time I found that you are mentioning these South Asian nations. They have utilized this youth as a really dividend for their country. So could we have some material from your side to look after that, what kind of strategies, what kind of policies they are using, so that we can also utilize those things?
Okay. Okay, Dr. Arif, very quickly for your last point, our presentation is there with the organizers, so they can share with you, and you get to know from the presentation what policies, and you can further try to Google and find it out. While we do have some materials we can share with you. On the migrants, your concern is very valid. You know what happens in migration, these poor people, they don't get the opportunity at their place of stay, so that they are not getting employed there. So these are the push factors. So they're pushed out of their state, and they are pulled by those states where they can go and work, but they go in despair, and then they have to work in an informal sector. There the policies and something is needed, which I was talking about, that the state, or the federal approach should actually do something to see that, there should be a skilled migrants. How do we enhance their, not only their skills, but also their living conditions wherever they go, their earnings. So there's a lot, and I think it's a barren ground. We have to do it a lot. And I agree with your concerns as seeing the present situation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.